Dom, how does it feel to be one of the MMA coaches in one of the most prestigious gyms in the world, Syndicate MMA?
The classic is Muay Thai is pain. Fighting is pain. MMA is pain. You're putting your body through things that realistically no human should ever have to go through.
It is your sense of expression. Like, you can't just delete everything, go to a different style. I mean, you fight the way you fight, and that's why you love to do it, right? It's almost like, well, that's you. That's being you out there.
The biggest skill that you have to learn is being able to learn and being willing to take lessons from like places that you're not expecting it and being unorthodox.
You're sharing your weirdness out to the world, and usually your weirdness is what's gonna get you, quote unquote, successful or wealthy, or get you to the highest levels, like you said. Dom, how does it feel to be one of the MMA coaches in one of the most prestigious gyms in the world, Syndicate MMA?
It's nothing short of an honor, really. Having the trust of such a veteran coaching staff with John Wood and Danny and just the rest of the guys up there, really like putting some trust and faith in me to be even like have a shot of being in the same room as some of the highest level athletes in the world. So like short answer, honor. But it feels good. It feels like something crazy every day.
Well, what's amazing is that you were, when I say like one of us, just training in that gym. And I know I've known you for a while, ever since I started going to that gym. And it's crazy to kind of see the transition. And I think it's amazing what you're doing, meaning, like I just mentioned, it is one of the most prestigious gyms in the world. I mean, you see people like Marab there, going there, and just some famous MMA fighters that go. It's sometimes surreal to believe. Can you talk about the transition to be a coach at Syndicate? Like, what was the process like, and how were you like feeling about that? Because in some sort of way, were you nervous? Was it kind of nerve-wracking to meet with the guys, or since you're so personable, was it just kind of easy for you?
So it was kind of an interesting transition. Really what showed it was Tuesdays and Thursdays, Muay Thai class, we do pad holding. And I had started to really fall in love with like the idea of pad holding and seeing it not as something that I had to do for you guys and for my teammates, but instead it was like, it's its own skill and its own kind of way of thinking about fighting, not from the actual physically doing it part.
Yeah, pad holding, by the way, is when a coach holds pads for someone. He literally has two pads in his hands, and the fighters will kind of hit it, kick it, and just to get like the mobile move around aspect to simulate a fight, pretty much.
Yeah, the way I kind of look at it is like it's sparring. It's being able to throw with full intention, but not hurt anybody or hurt anything. So it's the closest that you can get to being in an actual fist fight without getting into an actual fist fight.
Yeah.
Even sparring, you can't really throw with full intention because you don't want to hurt your sparring partner. We got a fun saying of you don't want to hurt your toys. You don't want to hurt the people around you, the people who help make you better. So
absolutely.
So yeah, I'd like started out with that. And then was lucky enough to have the trust again from Chris Trammell, our head Muay Thai coach, to go up with him to corner our other Muay Thai coach, Chris Conway, during his fight in Colorado. And from there, I really got to see the full experience of being backstage, of warming somebody up, of the walkout, of just kind of that full expression of like excitement and joy of getting a win as well.
Right.
Because he shout out Conway for having the fastest knockout in the history of MMA.
Shout out Conway. That is crazy.
Yeah, it was 10
That's crazy
seconds,
to hear.
10 seconds, one punch, and just kind of just that surreal moment of like, oh my God, he did that. And then, oh my God, we helped him get there. Like, of course, it was mostly Trauma who helped get him there. But from then, just moved on to kind of incorporating Muay Thai pad holding into more of an MMA sense.
Yeah.
And was lucky enough to get put under the right wings and start learning just a different way of looking at it. But really it wasn't that difficult of a transition, because from learning Muay Thai, at the end of the day, a kick's a kick, a punch is a punch, a knee is a knee, an elbow's an elbow. They're all the same thing, no matter at what level. The difference is starting to learn about the conceptual side of looking at it like a giant human chess game, where certain moves lead to certain things, other moves lead to other things. There's setups, there's retreats, there's resets. There's just so much going on that like I grew up loving chess, so I was like, wow, like this is awesome. Like this is perfect.
That's a great point. For people that, so you know, you'll get those people that watch the UFC or Muay Thai or whatever combat sport that they're watching, and they don't really know what's going on. All they see is like, oh yeah, you know, they probably want to see a knockout, or they know a little bit about jiu-jitsu. What would you say? How would you describe, like, for a simple breakdown of the technical aspects and what's going on in a fight from a coach's perspective?
The biggest thing that I've started to notice that really separates people from your highest level fighters from your kind of, I don't want to say middling, but like that next rung below, is mostly distant management and knowing where you are and like having a full sense of not only your body and your body positioning, but the body positioning of your opponent and where they're at and how their body mechanics can affect what moves that they have. Like, for example, if I push somebody up against the cage, not fully up against the cage like I went in for a shot, but instead I'm just kind of walking them down, I have to have in my brain, oh, there's a line where I have to stand, where I'm safe, but I can still attack.
Yeah, that invisible line of like distance. Yeah,
exactly. It's having an invisible line and having a cone in front of you of, okay, I want to keep you in here. Watching the highest level strikers in the world, they're incredible at this. They know exactly where they're at all times.
Insane.
It's almost like a third sense. It's one of those things like, yeah, we can train it as much as possible, but what separates you is like just an innate instinct. It's just going off of like, I know where I'm at, I know where you're at, and that leads to all the different things that you can go off of it. So that's probably the best way to put it there.
When I go to work or I go somewhere where fighting isn't really common, it's a thing. Say if you just go to your average job and no one trains, it's kind of hard to depict how you break down what fighting is, because like I said, most people will see it and they'll watch it on TV and they'll see like Floyd Mayweather, right? Or they'll see, hell, even who just fought in the UFC, like Conor McGregor or something. It's like, oh my God, what he's doing, look at those combos. But it's almost like they don't have a conceptual understanding of, like what you just said, is distance and the most important aspects of it, like footwork. And there's a lot going on in like a fight that people don't see. But anyway, can you take me back? So going back to what you were saying, what made you get into coaching? Like, especially what made you get into high level coaching, man? So I think this is the highest level, right?
Yeah. Oh no, this is the way we put it is Syndicate is the professional gym. If you want to be a professional MMA fighter, this is the route you have to take. And I'd say like my kind of journey to get to coaching started way before I even got into MMA, where all my life I played football. So I started playing tackle football at, I want to say sixth grade through the college level. So for all those years, all I had known was athletics and being around athletes, and more importantly, being around a team of people who were working together for a common goal, and that common goal being to win. After stopping playing football, it was, I don't want to say too complicated for me, but there's so many moving parts in football where it's kind of hard to keep track of. And I just I knew from friends and friends of friends what the grind was in order to be a high-level football coach. And at the time, I just wasn't ready for it. So instead, I hopped into Muay Thai, started doing it as a hobby for fun because I was a fighting fan my whole life. And from there, it just snowballed where I was like, I just want to be around guys. I want to be around people who want to win and want to make, more important than winning, making themselves better.
Yeah.
And are willing to learn and are willing to explore and test things out, and those little things that separate somebody from who's a hobbyist from a high level athlete. Right. And it just snowballed to, hey, why not do the fun techniques with the highest level athletes in the world and start teaching them things that they might not know and they can play with. So.
Yeah. So for the people that want to get into coaching and they kind of have that teaching style that they want to go into teaching, because essentially that's what you're doing, how would you approach it, man? Because it could be kind of intimidating, right? Especially at that gym where it's like, oh, like it's like I said again, it's at the highest level, and I'm sure you get close to the guys. And was it just as easy for you to just ask them, oh, how do I get into coaching? Or did someone recommend you? Or did you talk to Coach John Wood about it?
Honestly, I didn't talk to anybody about it. Biggest catalyst for myself was earlier last year, I got hurt and was forced to take 6 months off from even being able to work out, like let alone go into the gym. And during that time, it really sat and was like, hey, I want to be around this forever. And it's not a matter of can I be around it, it's how do I be around it. So I can continue training like a fighter, though I know I have no aspirations for winning a belt for myself. I don't want to say I have nothing to prove, because I would love to get back into the ring. For context, I've been in the ring once and took an L. And as much as I want to get that win back, which I will one of these days, I will get that win back. It was more of, I wanted to prove and see what it was like to be out there and go through the whole process, go through a camp, make that walk to a cage.
Absolutely, man. Walk it like it's on. Yeah,
walking into a ring is, it's one of the, that was a drug. That was, I see why people love this.
Yes.
But realistically, I had to sit and think after I got hurt, what do I want to do with this? Like, I can train forever, or I can do something with this that isn't me going into the ring, since I just know, like, I'm not going to make it to the UFC. Yeah. I might not even make any money doing that.
So you were like very aware of like your future circumstances as well. You know, your surroundings, and because, you know, a lot of people, especially fighters too, they don't know when to like kind of quit. And you said they kind of get up in like the glory, which is, you know, why they fight, right? And that's great. You know, the reason for that is great, but it's like a one track, like tunnel vision kind of line where it's like, I'm going to keep doing this. You know, you end up with 10 losses and then
you end up with
25 injuries later.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, is like, this sport is hard.
Unforgiving.
You are going to be in pain. The classic is Muay Thai is pain. Fighting is pain. MMA is pain. You're putting your body through things that realistically no human should ever have to go through. Like,
hurts me thinking about it.
Yeah, like a straight up fist fight is, most people try and avoid that. Most people go their entire lives without ever being in one, let alone getting into 40 over your career.
Yeah.
So I was just aware of my own shortcomings and aware of like myself as an athlete and myself as a human being wasn't going to happen. So instead, I made the decision when I got back into training, hey, I'm going to approach this differently, where I'm going to ask a lot more questions. I was always willing to learn, and I was always focused on learning, but now I get to focus on the little details and being able to help other people. That doesn't mean I've stopped training or I've stopped trying to be an athlete myself, because you have to be in order to be a coach. Instead, it was just, I don't need to worry about the glory of winning a belt for myself, because I don't need to. I don't need to prove myself in that sense. Instead, I want to help other people who have that goal and really want to learn and are showing the ability that they can learn.
Yeah, and that are capable.
Yeah.
Like, you just see something in people where it's like, oh, that's it. Especially at the highest level, right? They're outliers to where not everyone can do it. I'd like to be that guy to say, yo, everyone could do this. But I mean, to be on the top of the top, which is what you're dealing with now, which is very, very fascinating. It's almost like, man, if someone has it, or even someone has like the hustle or the drive more than anyone else, and that's very hard to compete with.
That's the biggest thing, is like you can be gifted with all of the physical blessings to be able to be an athlete, but the real stuff comes from being willing to grind and being willing to learn and knowing that, yeah, you're never going to win MMA. You're never going to 100% it. You're never going to finish MMA. Mm-hmm. It's a sport that changes literally every day.
Yeah.
And every day it's continuing to evolve because, I mean, realistically, it's a young sport. It's only UFC's only been around for about 30 years. That there were competitions out in Asia like before that, but even then, you put it to 40 years, that's nothing. On basketball's been around for over 100 years. Football's been around for over 100 years. Soccer's been around for over 100 years. Mm-hmm. And MMA is still a baby in the sports realm.
Yeah, and nothing to the scale, right? Because we do live in an information age where there is YouTube and you could watch playback from how you did and how the opponents did, and you could just, it's almost like progress is getting 10x. Faster, evolving faster than it ever has because of all the resources that you have. I mean, you could watch instructionals, you know what I mean? From the best athletes in the world. It's like listening to, if you want to be an educator, it's like listening to, I don't know, like Jordan Peterson or something, and you could learn from the best minds in the world, right?
You have an endless stream of information that gets to come at you. Yeah, a lot of it is, you have to sift through some garbage. There's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there, especially in the martial arts world. Yeah. That's always been around from the days of like the 80s of people wanting to be ninjas.
Watered down belts, yeah.
But at the end of the day, there's just so much information. And it's such a universal sport where you might learn something from somebody who doesn't speak your language, doesn't live in the same country as you, isn't even in the same realm of like thinking about this person. Like, who knew that I could learn so much from someone out in the mountains in Dagestan?
Yeah.
But then all of a sudden, here comes Habib, and now there's a whole new generation of people who are learning. Like, hey, there's levels to this. There's so much knowledge out there to be found that if you just shut yourself off, like you're not going to learn, and
exactly.
you're going to stay stagnant, and you're going to get left behind.
Which is, I guess, we're kind of like where ego comes from a little bit, because sometimes I get a sense of that. And it's kind of a good segue. It's almost like you're stuck to your one quote unquote style or, whatever, because you get so comfortable with it. It's like, oh no, I think this is like the best. And you have this belief system and ideology of what you think you are. But you have to be, in this sport in particular too, you have to be able to like kind of open your mind to new things. So going back to how you started coaching, can you talk a little bit about the process working with one of the best coaches in the world, John Wood, and how it's like working with him? I know that, so just for some context, I see these guys when we do jiu-jitsu in the ring, and he's working with like top level athletes, and I'm still in awe, when I'm sitting there rolling, sweating my ass off while Dom's there holding pads for high caliber athletes. And can you take me to what John Wood, the process of how John Wood teaches you and kind of mentors you?
Yeah. A lot of shit talk. A lot of good old shit talk.
Wouldn't be,
I wouldn't love it if he didn't. It really was just kind of just sitting and shadowing. A big part of the process when I was starting to pad hold, I'll say shout out Pablo, was the first guy I ever held pads for in front of John.
Pablo's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Fucking really, really nice guy.
Very incredibly kind. Fighting, as of this recording, fighting tomorrow.
Awesome. Hey, Pablo, we know you got it. Yeah. Get that W, dude.
Yeah. It was a matter of holding for him in front of John for the first time. And I was really stuck in my Muay Thai pad holding, and Muay Thai style is a lot of standing right in front of your opponent, not a lot of movement, and just really cardio. It's a bigger focus is in Muay Thai pad holding. And having John just say, hey, that was cool, throw it all out. We're going to crash course you on what it's like in MMA.
Interesting.
And from then on, I was just kind of a fly on the wall, where I would sit, listen to him talk through these privates with a lot of these fighters and see how he is holding pads, what is he teaching guys? How does he not only what like techniques is he teaching, but kind of just how does he interact and get along with these fighters, because people come from all around the world in order to work with him.
Absolutely.
So it was just, in my mind, it would be like somebody who wants to intern for an NFL team, getting to sit with the head coach every day and just watch and learn directly from him, and then being able to be thrown into pad holding duties and getting to work and test stuff out on your own with other fighters. So the process really was, one day John was hurt. He had recently hurt his wrist, I believe, and he needed somebody to help kind of take a load off. So he went to trauma, was like, hey, that Dom kid, he seemed like he kind of gets pad holding and kind of.
It's like, you mean that big ass dude?
Yeah, that guy. Yeah, no, like go throw him in there.
Big ass, the guy with the fireman stash.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's what brought him in. Pulled me in and said, hey, let's try this out, and been there since. And it really is crazy. Like, just the only way to describe it is a crash course, because I've only been seriously doing this for a short amount of time, and just the levels to this game are crazy. And hearing from him and being able to ask him questions and pick his brain and have him tell me, no, don't do that, that was the most wrong technique you could possibly have, is valuable, because I know I don't know everything. I'm not going to be like, oh no, like I want to do it this way. I'm not going to listen to you, John Wood, veteran for 25 plus years of MMA coaching.
It's like, no, you listen to me.
Yeah, like who am I to say that? So instead it was a big zero ego, just learn and kind of, I don't want to say parrot, but just know like, okay, these are the techniques that work for him. How can I add, like, I like my certain things. I really love Muay Thai. It's probably it is my favorite art form. So how could I add that more to MMA pad holding and add some more things and just kind of mix the two and really meld it together to create something new?
Yeah.
But that was really the process, was just him going out on a limb, saying, I have a hole in the coaching staff that needs to be filled. I'm willing and able to learn and be there and be around. Love everyone on the team, and just enjoy being around them, enjoy being around people who want to be better. So it just continued to snowball from there, and now we're here.
Absolutely. You bring it up, the shit talking and how John Wood, you said, oh, that's completely wrong. So in Saturdays, when I got fortunate enough to get a couple rounds with John, and so we do Muay Thai in the mornings, and when Johnny was teaching, I guess you could say, habited that style more of Muay Thai. So I started a little bit in boxing. That's why I'll move my head around, and probably got a head kick from Isaac due to it. But so when I was sparring John, I kind of had this mentality of the way I spar, of going inside, because I'm a shorter fighter, and I was trying to go inside with John, and obviously he'd kind of keep this like long guard to keep me away, obviously. And I'd go in, and once I'd go in, I'd try to like hit his body, but the problem is like I'd stay there. And he was like, listen, man, you have to move. You have to, after you throw a combination, you have to back up and move, reset, and then go again. And he particularly told me that, I know that, you've been, you take the Muay Thai classes, and that's kind of like what you're thinking, but this is different. You don't, number one of his lessons was don't just throw like a naked knee. Don't feint and then just throw a knee. You have to throw something before that. There's just so the point is just there's certain circumstances that is just a big no-no when it comes to like full-on MMA, because you think, oh, it's fighting. It's almost like I thought, just like saying when I was boxing, I was like, oh, let's just add elbows and kicks to it, and when you transition Muay Thai, it was not that at all. There was like clinch, you move different, you can't move your head as much, And yeah, it was just once John told me that, I was like, oh, that's why what actually, I think you know a little bit of this. That's why when we're in Muay Thai, I tend to move around a lot. It's somewhat because of him, because his advice stuck with me. But then we're in a Muay Thai class, so it's almost like, you know?
Yeah.
And I stand different. It's not bladed as most, you know, because you got to kick checks. I stand more like here, and my legs are spread more apart since, you know, you do jiu-jitsu, you know, and all that stuff.
It's taking whatever base you have. The way I look at it is like everyone has their own base and has what they might not have started in, but were comfortable in and really did a lot of their learning in. And just how do you make the small micro adjustments in order to fit what realistically is a different sport? So like Muay Thai, again, my favorite, I love it. And you do get away with sitting in the pocket and allowing to eat shots in order to give shots and do things that in MMA you will get caught with.
Yeah.
If I stand really heavy and like my stance if I go into MMA in my full Muay Thai stance, I'm going to get taken down 10 times out of 10.
Yep.
There's no defending it. Mm-hmm. So it really is, hey, how do I change up what I'm doing in order to fit this sport with a completely different rule set and things that I might not be comfortable in. I dabbled in jiu-jitsu. I'm proud one stripe white belt. And even then I know, okay, if I don't want to get to the ground, which I don't ever want to go to the ground, I have to change everything. I have to completely change how I'm doing my Muay Thai. But I will stick with my Muay Thai. I know that's where I'm comfortable in. I know that's what will work. However, I just need to add or take things away.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is, you know, what I was talking about with the other fighters who were here with Nas and Xiaoya. It is your sense of expression. Like, you can't just delete everything, go to a different style. I mean, you fight the way you fight, and that's why you love to do it, right? It's almost like, well, that's you. That's being you out there. Yeah, very nice. So cornering a little bit. How about that, man? Like, so you told me that you went to corner with Conway and Trauma, who is our Muay Thai coach. Mm-hmm. And how does it feel now to be coaching? You are going to be coaching at Tough Enough tomorrow, so that's fucking awesome. What is that like for you, man? Like, especially learning under, again, the best coaches in the world, because not a lot of people get to do that as far as corner.
For cornering, honestly, the best part about it is not even the in the moment like coaching. It's not yes, you have to make those little in-fight adjustments and be able to have the awareness of making those changes in between rounds. But the bigger thing is I'm just happy to be a part of seeing somebody get to express themselves in their fullest way and seeing both the highs and the lows. Yeah. And like, you really see, it's your chance to really see the fighter and really see the person who's in that cage. There's no hiding. The spotlights are on you. You are not only doing something extremely athletic and extremely difficult, but it's almost a performance. It's no different really than going on stage and singing or dancing or any kind of other physical art form. In my mind, I'm just happy and honored to be there and have somebody who trusts me enough to go in and try and just kind of keep them focused on being themselves and doing what they need to do in order to achieve their goal. So as much as I do love, like, again, the strategy and tactics, the best part about being in someone's corner or on fight day is that all of the strategy and tactics kind of go out the window. Like, you do add those last minute backroom adjustments, and you do in fight say, hey, this person came out doing this, let's change here. But at the end of the day, there's only one person in that cage who's able to do things. So you can give the instructions, and the fighter, if they're, smart, they will listen to you and won't ignore your corner advice. But instead, it's really like, man, like, I'm just happy and excited as both a former continuing fan of fighting to just be there and be in that moment with them and get to share that experience with them. It's like a humbling and honoring experience, honestly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and even just the support aspect of it. Yeah, like you said, it's almost like you're a team, and depending on what happens, win or lose, you almost have to take that emotion with them, right? It's seeing someone lose is not a pretty. It's part of the game, but it's just not something that. It's just kind of hard to deal with at times too. It's almost like you were in the cage with the fighter himself. So that's got to be like a tough role to play too, because not only is it a physical thing when you guys are in the gym together, and you holding pads for them, it's, man, you're literally in the trenches with them as far as how they feel.
It was nice having the experience of being on like a football team, where I'll say shout out Lewis and Clark College, alma mater. However, we did a lot of losing in college. When I joined up on the team, it was had the longest active losing streak of any collegiate football team in the NCAA. And even then, it was just a lot of losing and a lot of learning how to lose. Some guys were really good at it. Other guys weren't good at it. I personally never really saw any field time. I didn't get much playing time, which added and kind of subtracted from the sting of losing, where I'm like, man, I didn't do anything to help this. I did all of the practice. I did all the training. I did everything. Didn't actually fix the outcome of this game. And in the end, we lost. So I think like grinding out those kinds of losses helps in being there for someone, being able to say, hey, like, yeah, we lost. We can move on. We can move on from a loss. You have to internalize losses. You can't just blindly ignore them and say, oh, no, like, I lost, whatever, we'll move on. Like, you lost for a reason. There's things that happened, whether they be tactically, like I messed up and told you something that was wrong. I'll own that. But there's other things that are like physical, like were you conditioned enough? Did you do your strength and conditioning? Mentally, like, did you go in with the right mentality? Do you have the right reasonings for this? Is everything okay? Like, there's so many factors that go into a win or a loss that no matter what, you're going to feel it, but you can't just ignore it. You know what I mean?
Exactly. Like you just said, you can't hide from it. No. You have to face it. And I mean, yeah, for the most part, usually athletes are pretty good about it. You know, they're not just going to quit. Like, I know that there's these motivational things where they're like, yeah, just don't quit. Well, yeah, duh. I mean, like, you know, most likely if you're in there in the ring and you train every day, that's not what you're going to do. But yeah, it's just, I don't think we put enough emphasis on just emotions, because they are hard during the times that they do happen. But yeah, eventually we tend to fix our mistakes, and that's how people get resilient, you know? Yeah, so we were talking a little bit about how you work for One Championship, another prestigious organization that you work for, and that's kind of your background and almost how you started in this, right? Like you said, you went for we were talking before this, and you did a LinkedIn. Yeah. You applied at LinkedIn resume.
It was an interesting process of getting in there. Altogether, from the time. To back it up, I was living in Oregon at the time, had a very nice job with a great boss, but it was just something that wasn't really fulfilling. And I had this dream of working in MMA, of giving myself a piece of myself and helping build this sport that has been around my entire life. I've grown up with it. It was the only professional sport here in Las Vegas. So I desperately wanted to work in it. I got rejected from the UFC 5 times. I applied there plenty to try and work with them, but ended up in that process just like blindly shooting out LinkedIn connections to people in any fight promotion. So I was throwing stuff out to Cage Warriors out in the UK, throwing stuff out to LFA here in the US, to One Championship out in Asia. And the only people to get back to me and sit down and have a conversation with me was the folks over at One Championship. And it wasn't anything crazy. I distinctly remember it was like one of the weeks before I moved out from Oregon and moved back to Las Vegas. We sat down, had a nice conversation, kind of picking his brain about what it was like being an American who was working for this Asian company and kind of what they were doing. And at the time, I wasn't super familiar with them. The first time I had actually heard about One Championship was my first Muay Thai coach hyping up a Muay Thai fight between Nicky Holskin and John Wayne Parr. Wow. And that was, I think, 2021, before this was still when One was only doing shows in Asian primetime. So at like 5 a.m. here in the US. Stayed up early to watch it, loved their product, was like, wow, this is sick. Helped me get more into Muay Thai because that's our bread and butter, is Muay Thai. Fast forward to 2 years ago. At the time, I was unemployed, had just stopped working. Funny enough, stopped working at Syndicate. I was proud alumni of the front desk, mopping mats. Yep. And all of a sudden, I had just got hit up by one of the members of my now current boss. Had hit me up and said, "Hey, we're starting something new, a new team here at One Championship. I know you've shown interest in wanting to work here, and you applied for a random job on LinkedIn when I was just desperately needing money. It was like, any job, I will take anything." So I had applied. They called me, and for 2 years now, I've been really blessed and lucky enough to have grown professionally with them and be able to see the other side of the cage.
Yeah, I think that's very, very cool and very fascinating because, again, that's actually a very motivating story. I mentioned before, again, when we were talking, that there is a psychiatrist that I listened to that he graduated on top of his class, and he was actually on top of his class, but then at the lowest out of everyone. His GPA was the lowest. So he applied over in Harvard medical school, and so he applied, and they ended up calling him, and he was so surprised. He was like, "Really, me?" I mean, he got by just barely in high school. But what he came to find out was no one applied because they thought Harvard was this prestigious. I mean, it is, but then they didn't think that they had a chance of going to the school. So it just kind of reminds me of that story where it's like, well, take the chance, man. Again, like with everything that you're doing, look, not a lot of people could pull it off, right? And even, I was thinking about this too. I mean, we like to think of like, yeah, anyone could do it. But look, man, you have the build for it too. Like we were talking about, you pretty much have the stereotypical look for it, but it goes with what you're doing. You have the build, you know how to hold Muay Thai pads, just everything just comes together. You took a shot. Like, I'm sure that you had to do some assertiveness to get that coaching job at Syndicate. 'Cause it's not like they just accept anyone, So I know there's like more to the story. You're very personable. Like I said, you're friends with everyone over there. You say hi to everyone. You're very friendly. That's a part of it. Because I was not veering off too much, but I was reading this book called Outliers with Malcolm Gladwell. And part of it, you can be the smartest guy in the room, but if you don't have like charisma, I think there's like a statistic that your pay gets cut off by like 50%. And your chances of getting the job that you want gets also cut down. So it's not just about like intelligence, right? Even if you're the smartest guy, well, if you don't get it out there, if you're too scared to get it out there, like say on video, which is our superpower nowadays online, to get it out to the masses, to teach what you know, then what are we really doing over here, right?
Yeah. And there is a big part of like kind of faking it till you make it too. Like imposter syndrome is like, it's a very real thing. It's a very real thing. And there was like, especially when I started working with One, I got into this. I was like, I didn't go to school for social media marketing. I didn't go to school for any kind of marketing, frankly. No, I now do video editing. Didn't go to school for video editing. Yeah, I had to teach myself all of that because it's all about adding things and just kind of like having a base confidence and a base knowledge of like, hey, I have this goal and I have this vision. How do I achieve that? You kind of just have to fake it a little bit. You just have to like just show up and just like be willing to show up and fail all the time. You have to be willing to be wrong all the time in order to get anywhere. And it's funny that you say like, oh yeah, you're being personable and all that, because that was another big lesson I had to learn in my life where growing up, I was a pretty shy kid, like my entire life. Was never really like, I never really wanted to leave the house. I just kind of wanted to sit home and play Xbox and watch sports, like watch some football, watch fighting. But then what pushed me was like having to like leave home and go to a different place and somewhere where I knew nobody and knew nothing, and was really thrust into this kind of position where it was like, okay, you can either open up and just view everybody as potential friends, or view everyone as potential, I don't want to say enemies, but like people who are going to make fun of you or judge you or whatever. And you just have to block it out of your brain and be like, you know what? Everyone is a potential friend until they're not.
Until they're not.
And that's just kind of how I live life now. It's like, okay, everyone's a friend. I'm not afraid to talk to anybody. Like, I'll be friendly with anyone.
Exactly. And this is, again, relates to coaching, because you kind of have to be friendly with anyone. And it's a big melting pot, man. You know, not that everyone's going to be nice to you, even working with them. Right? That's just the workplace in general. And that's a great point, because we did a podcast, me and Aram did a podcast on like social skills. And it's crazy what people's stories are. See, people like you, I wouldn't have imagined that you were a shy kid, but that kind of seems to be the theme. Aram was, I was. I mean, look, and I'm starting this fucking podcast talking to people like it's weird. And seriously, like at the age of 21, 22, I thought I was just like too cool for school. It was just like, but really it was just my own insecurities. I'd like look down and talk to people like that. And, I thought it was just, fuck this guy. You know what I mean? That kind of stuff. But I think it's interesting with people's stories that how they were able to get those social skills up, because there seems to be a theme over here, right? You being, again, at one of the most renowned gyms is, I think, honestly, that's what got you there. You just said it right now. You get a little bit of imposter syndrome. And it's not like you're like the world-class pad holder when you got in there and you told John Wood, like, hey, look at what I can do. It's just you kind of ran into it. You kind of did what you had to do. Maybe you visualized it in your head subconsciously, what you had to do. And here we are,
It's funny that you the big thing that I think helped out in this whole journey was the stint where I was like actually just working at the gym and building the trust of like, yeah, I can athletically keep up, and it makes sense in my brain. Like fighting just kind of makes sense. I can see the concepts, I can understand that. But the bigger thing was like building that trust of like, oh, we trusted this guy enough to show up every day to mop mats and sell memberships and take care of little issues here and there, and got to know, not as close as I know him now, but just got to know me, where it's like, okay, yeah, there's Dominic, the guy at the front desk. He's friendly. He knows everybody here. He's just the friendly face that when you come in, I say, oh, hi, welcome to Syndicate, answering the phones. And then from there, adding the little things of like you can learn strategy, you can learn tactics, you can learn how to coach. It's that base of like, are you going to be friendly and patient and willing enough to like try and teach someone? Because especially for me, what I've seen of like the difference of coaching like the highest level athletes versus the day one beginner is the day one beginner is scared. I mean, I was scared when I first signed up for my gym. When I first started in Muay Thai, I was late to class first, which not great look. But it was mostly, hey, like I'm a fan of this. I watched this, but like I have no idea what I'm doing. So I kind of, every time somebody walked into the gym, I put myself back into those shoes of like, yeah, it takes a lot to even want to try and learn something new and want to try to push yourself into a place of discomfort. So why like Like, I'm not going to be a drill sergeant and yell at you. I'm going to push you, and I'm going to push you to achieve whatever goal it is you want, whether it be like, I just want to get my cardio in and do something fun to work out with, or I want to win a UFC one championship, PFL, whatever world title. No matter what, I want to help you get there. So and I'm going to approach it the same way. I'm going to approach it from the perspective of like, this is your first day ever learning this. I'm not going to dumb it down. I'm not going to make you like an idiot, but we're going to figure it out together, and we're going to get we're going to take the next step together.
Right. Yeah. It's, I guess what you're really trying to say is this, letting them know that you're there to achieve whatever goals they are, as long as they work hard at it too, right? Because you could only do so much as well.
You can take a horse to water, but you can't make it drink. Same, like, that's the idea.
Exactly, man. Man, this is some awesome insight, man. This is some awesome insight. And I told you before this that, yeah, I think it's amazing. Like, your growth personally is just now you're here. Now you're here. And I've been watching behind the scenes like a creepo, you know? And I'm like, oh, look at Dom. Like, he's in the cage now. Again, working with these high-level fighters, working with John Wood, learning from literally the best. And that's not an overstatement. It's literally you're learning from the best and working with the high-level athletes, and at the same time, you're coaching, you know, the hobbyists, and you seem to be learning a lot. Talking to you, and so to end this podcast, what advice would you give, number one, for aspiring coaches in anything, if they wanted to pursue like anything high level, say if they wanted to be a football coach, like a high level college football coach or whatever, or even whatever, just coaching in general, what would you say? Where would they start, and what skill would they have to learn?
The biggest skill that you have to learn is being able to learn and being willing to take lessons from like places that you're not expecting it, and being unorthodox. So like the way I view it is like we had put it earlier, fighting and like the physical act of fighting is your expression of how you want to like create art. And that art is a very violent art. With coaching, the biggest thing is it's a philosophy. It's an idea of, okay, because you're teaching them how to win a game, or let's say if you want to be a high-level soccer coach, you're teaching them like the fundamentals and the skills in order to win. But the biggest thing is adding like a philosophy and adding an expression of yourself through these athletes. So the biggest things that I've taken away from not only myself and my journey, but the journey of a lot of these coaches that I know, who I am lucky enough to call friends, is being willing to like look in the unorthodox places and not afraid of being like the weird guy in the room. Yeah. Because it's usually the weird guys and the weird people who become coaches who end up winning. I mean,
it's fucking true.
You look at someone like Nick Saban or Bill Belichick, Phil Jackson, like these historically extremely successful coaches, they're weirdos. Mm-hmm. They are like, you put them in any like normal situation, they're fucking weird. But that's the point. You have to think of things outside of the box, not only in your own day-to-day life, but like in the sport, in how you want to teach people, just like all those kind of things. It comes down to go back to your question of like, what advice would I give, is like, think about like what makes you love the sport. What makes you love this, and why do you love this so much? Now try and package that and share that with people.
Yep.
That's like, I remember during USMTO, one of the big things I would tell people is like, oh, at the end of the day, once you get into the ring, smile. Like, you're here for fun.
Yep.
Like at the end of the day, you are like, you're doing something extremely crazy, but you love it.
Yeah.
So just smile and enjoy it.
Man, that was on point. And I'd like to add to that. Yeah, exactly. Share your weirdness. I know we grew up in like a society where you want to fit in and you want to act like, you know, one of the boys, or you want to act like in one of the in crowd. But think about, I heard this one thing from a podcaster. Think about the chances of you being here on Earth. It's astronomically impossible to quantify it, right? So fucking hell, share your weirdness, because you know what? That's just going to make you. It's like you're sharing your weirdness out to the world, and usually your weirdness is what's gonna get you quote unquote successful or wealthy, or get you to the highest levels, like you said. So don't be afraid to share that with the world. Fuck what people say, and just handle your business and go for whatever you want.
Just be weird.
Just be weird, man.
Just be a weirdo. Like a good weirdo. Don't be like a weirdo, but just be a weirdo.
Yeah, exactly. Well, man, hey, I appreciate you for coming, man.
Thank
This
you,
has
man.
been been awesome.
It's
a lot of nuggets in here.
It's a real honor for you to even come out and ask me to be on
fuck
here,
yeah,
man.
dude. Hell yeah,
it's
man.
Awesome.
I've been looking forward to this, man. And again, I'll end it with this: is that you're the one teaching me, because of like, it's inspiring. It's almost like, wow, look at this guy. I've known him since, I've started coming to the gym, and look where he's at now. And I think it's a huge deal. I think it just shows the progression of someone wanting to go where they want to go, right? Like towards their goals. So you were a perfect fit for this podcast. So thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks, bro. Thank you, man.